The shock of what's happened has left the nation shaken. There's disbelief, sadness, and loss.
I am really shocked because I thought Abe would continue his efforts to make the country better. My child's name includes the term Kuni, which represents the beautiful nation built by Abe. So I came here to offer my gratitude to Abe, and I wanted to tell my child about him.
He served as our longest Prime Minister. I thought he had recovered from an earlier sickness, so I was expecting him to run for a third time. He still had a lot to do, so I feel really sad.
When doctors couldn't save the former leader, his body was taken from the hospital, accompanied by his wife. Then came a chance for mourners to pay their respects outside Shinzo Abe's house. This man, Tetsuya Yamagami, has admitted shooting Japan's longest-serving prime minister with a homemade gun. Shinzo Abe was delivering a campaign speech on Friday morning for the parliament's upper house election to be held on Sunday. Then all of a sudden, this. Then the 41-year-old gunman, standing close behind Mr. Abe, is immediately tackled to the ground. The police searched the alleged assassin's apartment, unearthing other handmade guns there. Police are still investigating whether his killer acted alone and why Mr. Abe was targeted.
The suspect confessed that he committed the act as he had a grudge against a specific organisation and believed former Prime Minister Abe was part of it. We'd like to refrain from getting into the details.
Japan's grief is being felt all around the world. There was a moment of reflection at the UN Security Council. China's foreign ministry, which certainly shared many differences with Mr. Abe, said China was in shock, extending condolences to Mr. Abe's family. The US president paid his respects at the Japanese ambassador's residence in Washington, the leader of a country used to gun attacks, with this tribute to one that isn't.
This attack has had a profound impact on the psyche of the Japanese people. This is a different culture they're not used to, as unfortunately we are. Here in the United States, we know how deep the wounds of gun violence go. I'm keeping his wife and family in my prayers, and the United States is standing in solidarity with our ally Japan.
As part of the 67-year-old's legacy, it said the former Prime Minister could still shift the political landscape from behind the scenes. For Japan, this shocking personal tragedy may have deeply political implications too. Mark Lobel, BBC News.
Our correspondent Mariko Oi is in Tokyo. Mariko, this anguish being felt in Japan is clearly reverberating around the world.
Absolutely. He was a very famous, well-known politician, not just, of course, within Japan, but also outside as well. He was, of course, the longest-serving prime minister of the country, so he has become somewhat of a face of Japan's politics, if you like. I am standing outside of his home here in Tokyo, where his body was brought back earlier this afternoon, all the way from the city of Nara, where he was assassinated on Friday. Shortly after his body returned, we saw the current Prime Minister of Japan, Fumio Kishida, coming here to pay a visit, and we've been seeing quite a lot of cars going in, assuming that a lot of politicians as well as government officials walking in to pay respects. But as the country mourns, Tanya, people are asking questions about the security, how such a high-profile politician who is also quite divisive in Japan was allowed to just campaign on the street with only a few security guards, and whether or not those bodyguards acted quickly enough, because as US President Biden was talking about it just now, Japan just isn't used to gun crimes like this, and maybe that might have been one of the reasons that they didn't react as quickly as they would have should they happen elsewhere.
You've mentioned that he was Japan's longest-serving prime minister, 2012 to 2020. It's a very long time to serve. He was an absolute giant of Japanese politics, wasn't he?
Absolutely, and that was the second time that he served as the Prime Minister. He was a Prime Minister in 2006 to 2007, but he stepped down due to his personal illness, but then he came back. And I vividly remember the night that he won the election to become the Prime Minister once again, when his party, the Liberal Democratic Party, won the election. It was a very cold night in December in 2012, and that's partly why I remember it. But since then, before that, he was known as somebody who was a protege of Junichiro Koizumi. I don't know if you remember him, but he was known outside of Japan as kind of the Elvis Presley Prime Minister because of his appearance and because of his love for music. And when Mr. Abe first became the Prime Minister, people didn't find him as charismatic as Mr. Koizumi. But then he came back for the second time and he had all that energy. His economic policies, known as Abenomics, are quite well known even outside of Japan, and he has become probably one of the most famous Japanese politicians of our time. So this attack, not only the fact that this gun crime happened in the city of Nara is very shocking, but also the fact that he was attacked is definitely shocking the entire nation.
Thank you very much indeed, Marika Oy.